What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's the one and only James Williams, Dog Waters. And before we get to this upload, I want to do a little bit of promotion for you. So now, if you don't know, we have our own website called IamDogWaters.com. IamDogWaters.com. That is our members only website. Go there, click the button in the middle. It'll take you to where you can sign up and you can become a member. Over there, you'll find way more horror stories than you see here. And we're talking about Bigfoot, Dogman, long form content stories. We're talking about hour, 2 hour, 3 hour long pieces of content that you won't find here on YouTube. Here on YouTube, you'll find a bunch of Dogman, a bunch of Bigfoot, but over there, you will find everything. So if you haven't had the opportunity to go there, I want you to go there now. And also, if you don't know right now, there are 4 books out on Amazon. Now, listen to me. The average price of the books on Amazon when it comes to Dogman and Bigfoot is like $4.99. But I'm not greedy. Everything I'm putting out is at $2.99. And if you have Kindle Plus, you can just download them and read them for free. Siege of Lockett Ranch is there. Shocking Bigfoot Encounters Part 1 and Part 2 is there. Terror in the Trees is there, which is a book of Bigfoot stories. Terrifying Tales from Native American Reservations is there as well. I guess the point I'm trying to make here is this. I'm busting my behind to make sure that you have access to as much content as you like. And I'm doing it at a very affordable price. Now, if you don't believe me, ask the members of the website who've been members for a long time. They got a price guarantee at $3.99 and a price guarantee at $4.99. Your price is guaranteed to be low when you're with me. And even as I move forward, people will quickly come to understand that everything that I do, I keep you in the forefront of my mind. With that being said, enjoy the upload.
Now listen, I have to admit to you that I never ever really believed in Dogman, but for some reason the topic just fascinated me. So I listened to a number of stories on YouTube and decided that I would go out and take a look for them. But the very first problem I ran into was I discovered that a number of these stories that people are telling just aren't true. So then I started listening to interviews. You know, the kind of interviews where people tell where they actually had their encounters and what city and town and state. But I had no luck with that either. It wasn't until I started tracking a few of the strange news stories, missing people, dead farm animals, and swamp animals, that I finally got on the right track. I ended up traveling down south to Louisiana, into the marshes and islands south of Morgan City. Now, before I go any further with the story, let me tell you this. To those of you who are thinking about doing what I did, I'll say this. If you're willing to risk your life and limbs just to see one of these creatures, it's possible. However, after what I experienced, I think that you should under no circumstances ever, never ever, go out looking for these dogmen. They're smart, tactical, and vicious. Anyway, back to the story. Through my research, I found out that hunters and fishermen were finding dead deer and pelicans washed up in the bayous. These things were half eaten and torn apart. The deers had their necks broken and had claw marks all over them. You see, the locals in Louisiana called this creature that I was looking for the rougarou. I called it the Dogman. So I made a contact with a few people. And I headed down to New Orleans and then from New Orleans to Morgan City. Once I hit the city, I wasted no time getting out to the swamps. I was only going to be there for 5 days, so I wanted to get moving. And to be honest with you, the first 4 days I was there was completely uneventful. It was on the morning of the 5th day that stuff started to happen for me. You see, I was having breakfast at this local diner when this boy walks in. And by boy, I mean he was no older than 19 or 20 years old. He walks up, sits down across from me, and says, "Mister, you the guy that everybody's saying looking for the rougarou?" Now, this dude seemed paranoid and shaky. You know, he was fidgeting and moving around, and his eyes kept darting left to right. I said, "Yeah, I'm looking for the rougarou." "What you plan on doing?" he said. That's when I told him, I just want to know for sure that they actually exist. This boy looked at me and started giggling and laughing. So yeah, I can assure you that they're real. How much you paying for the information? You pay me, I'll give you the coordinates to where they're going to be. I looked at this kid and I figured, look, maybe he's trying to hustle me for a few bucks, but I'll give him $50 just to check the coordinates out. So I say $50. That's when he looks at me and says, 500. Them people on them TV shows that's been coming down here, they've been paying thousands of dollars for this type of information. Now I found myself in the middle of a negotiation with a dusty, dirty little Cajun kid. So I quickly brought it to a head. $250 is all I'm paying. You can take it, or you can get up from this table and go on about your business. That's when this kid pulls out his cell phone, shows me pictures of the Rougarou. Not one, not two, but three. He said him and his brother had been taking pictures of him from the water because they transverse this island every evening. He even said they tried to shoot one of them with a tracking device, but they missed, and 4 of them jumped in the water and started swimming after him. After seeing them pictures, I was more than happy to spend $250. He told me, go to the area right before sundown, and I would see them passing along the island. As he was taking his money, he looked at me and said, whatever you do, don't go nowhere near that island. Stay 50, 60, 70 yards away out into the channel. These things can swim. They'll swim up to your boat and yank you out. After that, he took his $250 and walked away. Honestly, I was a little excited. I've been searching for these creatures about 11 months and had not one real lead. So I grabbed me some water, food, gassed up the boat, and headed out to that spot. But I was there early, way early. I got there at 1:30 p.m. And with 5 hours left until the sun was going down, I figured I'd just pull my boat up on the island just to get a closer look. In my crazy mind, I was thinking I just wanted to be able to say I walked on the same land that Dogman walks on. So I moved my boat closer up to the island, hopped off, and tied the rope holding my boat to the tree. I'd never been on an island in the swamps before, and the ground wasn't what I expected it to be at all. It was strong, firm, not even soggy at all. I walked further onto the island, about 10 to 12 feet, right until I got to this line of trees. And believe me, I wanted to walk further, but my nerves wouldn't let me. But what I was able to see beyond those trees was open, flat land. It really was a little island. It had high grass, but it was open, flat land. I can't tell you why at this point in time I started getting nervous. There really was no reason. But I figured it was best for me to get back on the boat. So I turned and started walking back towards the boat. And that's when I saw it for the first time. Dogman footprint. This thing was big. And what I mean by big is, you know how you go to one of those kids' birthday parties and they have those little small brown plastic plates where you can put a few sandwiches and a piece of chicken on? Well, take one of those, turn it over and press it in the ground. That's how big the front pad of this print was. That's huge. And it was sunk deep into the mud. After seeing that, I knew for sure the Dogman was real. So I got my behind on that boat and headed back out towards the middle of the channel and set anchor. I had positioned myself about 75 yards away from this island. And the swamps were tingling with life. I mean, pelicans flying, fish swirling, crickets chirping, frogs croaking. It was absolutely beautiful. And with the exception of the mosquitoes and bugs, it was picture perfect. But as it got closer to 5 o'clock, a line of boats started coming down the channel, passing me one by one. These were fishermen heading back in for the day. What else was cool was that I had never ever seen a shrimp boat. These things have these massive nets that hang on each side of the boat, and it was cool. And then one of these guys in this real small, beat-up skiff pulled up right next to me. He looked at me and said, "You finna head on in?" I ain't gonna lie to you, I was confused. I was like, I don't even know this dude. So I answered, "Yeah, in a little while." Then he said, "You might want to head on in, at least get to moving off this spot." When I asked him why, he said, "You must not be from around here." And I said, "No, sir, I'm not." He's like, "Well, let me tell you something. This is not the spot you want to be in, so you need to get to moving on in." Then he drove off in his boat. As he drove away, he looked back at me over his shoulder, kind of shaking his head and looking at me with this look on my face like I was crazy or stupid. But I didn't care. I wanted to see Dogman for myself. And I wasn't leaving that spot until I saw it. Right about 5:55, the sun started going down. And the further it went down, the crazier things got. The first thing I saw was two big alligators, 10 to 12 feet long, come running off that island. You know how they say gators can move about 9 to 10 miles an hour when they're on land? Well, these two big boys was moving 12 to 13. I mean, they came barreling off the island, sliding into the water, and disappeared. Next, I could hear another boat in the distance. And I'm not sure where it was, but this thing's engine was wide open. And when I came in, there was a lot of debris in the water. Whoever that was risking their life speeding like that. They could have easily hit something and flipped over. Then stuff got even more weird. Everything in the swamp went silent. And when I say everything, I mean everything. No more crickets, no more fish moving, no frogs croaking, no nothing. It was eerie. Next, I started to hear this splashing sound in the water. It was a ways off, but I was 100% certain that something was in the water splashing around. But it wasn't the sound of fish jumping. It sounded like something actually swimming through the water. About 5 minutes after that, I saw the first one. It was on all fours, and it ran past those same trees that I was standing next to earlier that day. The light had gotten real dim, but I was still able to see it. Then I saw a smaller one sniffing around. Man, to be honest with you, I was completely disappointed. Because if this was supposed to be the Rougarou, it couldn't have been. It just looked like large dogs running on all fours. But it wasn't until I heard this growling sound that I was sure the dog man was somewhere around. My entire body trembled. And for the first time, I realized that maybe I had bitten off way more than I can chew. And although I heard the growl, when I looked around, I couldn't see any. Based on what I heard, I really didn't want to see what made that sound. So I grabbed the rope attached to the anchor, started to pull it up out of the water. That's when I hear the sound of another boat coming down the channel. And this thing is moving, it has the lights on in front of it, and it's headed directly towards me. I start to wave and swing my hands trying to signal them and let them know that I was there. And right at the last second, they swerve and turn away. And it was crazy. Because you know how it is when you're driving in your car and you pass by another vehicle and you get a quick glimpse of the person through their window as they're passing by? It was just like that, except for the guy was looking at me and pointing to the island. Then the wake from his boat tossed me and shook me a little bit, making me drop the anchor back into the water. And while I was stumbling around on this boat, trying to regain my balance, I heard that growling sound again. This time, it was way louder and much closer. By now, there's absolutely no light left, and I'm freaking out. And what you have to understand is this boat passed on the right-hand side of me, and the island is to the left. So the wake was actually pushing my boat closer and closer to the island. I was in danger. I knew it, and I felt it. Although I didn't see anything at that point in time, I knew my life was in mortal danger. So I grabbed the rope and started pulling the anchor up again. And in the back of my mind, I already know the more I pull this anchor up, the closer and closer I'm going to drift to this island. So I start pulling as fast as I can and get the anchor up on the boat. And as I maneuver my body to get behind the steering wheel of the boat, I start to hear this rustling sound, which instantly let me know that I had drifted way closer to this island than I wanted to. So I crank the engine, throw the boat in reverse, and start wheeling it around so I can turn and go in the opposite direction. As I'm turning, I flick on the floodlight right at the front of the boat, and it slowly starts to illuminate that water in the channel and the island itself. And all I can tell you is that what I saw completely messed me up. As the boat turned and that floodlight illuminated everything, right on that spot where I was about 4 hours earlier, I saw a creature. This thing was 9 to 10 feet tall and standing on two legs. It was looking right at me. And about 10 feet out from the bank into the water were two more of these things. I couldn't see their bodies, but I could see their eyes, snouts, and ears poking out of the water. Man, now some people are going to think I'm lying, but I know exactly what I saw. Those eyes illuminated this orangish yellow color. For a split second, I thought it might have been gators, but their eyes illuminate red at night. This color was an amber orange color, and it was bright. And unlike an alligator, these eyes were huge. Man, I hit the throttle on that boat and got the hell out of there. When I reached the boat rental dock, I got out, walked up there, handed the owner the keys, got in my truck, and drove until I was 250 miles away from them swamps. Only then did I start to feel safe. I got me some coffee, and after that, I drove until I was completely tired and was about to pass out. I pulled over at a well-lit truck stop and slept. A few hours later, I drove again and kept on driving all the way till I got home. After seeing these creatures, I was so afraid. When I got home, I took every book, every article, everything I had about Dog Man and burned it. Not only are they real, but they were about to kill me.